This sign is modest in comparison to what's coming, but this fountain is decadent in comparison to what's coming. Friends, today we're diving into one of Disney's most exciting and potentially perplexing projects. Newly announced Monsters, Inc. land at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And while this project has created a bit of a buzz, it hasn't all been positive. And to add to that community conversation, I want to propose a question. Is this project the result of meticulous planning, or was it a rush reveal to make waves at D23? Food for thought, if this project is a little bit on the rush side, what does it mean for Disney's battle against Epic Universe? Because this isn't just about a new land, it's about a much bigger picture. Disney is redefining part of Hollywood Studios, but the concept artwork doesn't align with what they initially teased back in August. So I'm asking, why the shift in plans? Today I'll break down the clues hidden in the design and how these changes impact the storytelling and what it reveals about Disney's current strategy. And I will debate if they are recycling ideas from over a decade ago. Is this the innovation Disney needs to stay ahead in this very competitive industry? So with my designer's eye, I will take you building by building through Muppets Land to show not just how this transformation will create a new look, but an entirely new story altogether. Together, we'll uncover the narrative being built with the architecture, what the new concept art suggests about the land's future, and why these inconsistencies might hint at a larger issue. Is Disney playing catch-up instead of setting the pace? So let's step into the shoes of Imagineering. Were those earlier pieces of concept art mood boards to tease a vibe, or does this disjointed reveal suggest a project that's being pieced together as we speak? With Universal's Epic Universe about to open, can Disney afford to stumble when their competition is sprinting ahead? Brickey here, let's jump in and find out what's going on with the transformation of Muppets Land to Monsters, Inc. All right, let's start our design breakdown at the grand entryway, where we see Gothic wrought iron, creating more of a fence, more of an outer perimeter. I feel like it encloses the land more. You will also notice a couple of statues on top of the two pillars on the outer edges of the gate. I feel like the statues are instantly setting up the storytelling of you're going into a monsters-based land. Also, I think the gate makes it more of a divisional, whereas currently Grand Avenue kind of flows together. I think they're definitely trying to set up that this is where a new story and a new chapter of DHS begins. When Disney first teased Monsters, Inc. land at D23, they shared concept artwork that had a lot of people like myself speculating. Now, some of this artwork suggested that the land would replace the animation courtyard, and then other images hinted that it might take over Muppets Land. Now we're looking at a new piece of concept art, and it doesn't align with either of those early visions. Something major has changed. With Gonzo's Royal Flush, we see this wall behind us get transformed into a storytelling set piece. You can see that there's going to be teeth added all along the upper ridge, industrial steel corners put on each side of the building just to make it feel like it's a little bit more of a gritty, like factory town. But what's also very interesting is the faux windows that are being put in here. This creates way more of a neighborhood vibe, and this is something that we will pay attention to in this art breakdown, where they're going hard on adding in lots of new faux facades to create a much more dense, a deeper story, and to make you feel like you've truly walked into a whole different world. That attention to detail is not lost on me. So there are some very positive recommendations from me coming from this video. I'm just debating the overall plan. Rizzo's, the sign does stay, although different artwork, but most importantly, the big deck, the awning, it's all staying. Although not always open, this deck creates such a great vista into this land. And with some of the new details we're going to break down, I think this view is only going to get sweeter. It also does appear that a second water tower is being added to the building, but then another one is going away. I wonder if that's a mistake in the illustration or just something they need to finesse a little bit differently. So let's start with the possibility that the initial artwork was never meant to be definitive. Think about it. Disney has a history of using mood boards to generate buzz and to set a tone without locking in any specific plans. Was that the case here? Bright, playful, and full of Monsters, Inc. charm, But now, with this new artwork, we see a very specific direction emerging. One that definitely is taking over Muppets land. And I want to say, this new concept artwork is by far my favorite. So maybe the plan is finally materializing, making it to where those early images were marketing tools without committing to too many details. So the number one thing that you may notice when you look at this new vision of this land, is there's a lot more park space, a lot more green space. It feels way more open. And that's because stage one is getting demoed and taken away. And I do enjoy how this will create a very park-like setting, a lot more room. Major reason for this building being removed, not only the green space, which I think is going to be amazing, but this is going to be a giant walkway sending you straight to the factory where the new roller coaster will live. This ride will have a very high demand for the foreseeable future. Opening all this up will not only let crowds flow through, but allow people to catch a Monsters, Inc. vibe in the park-like setting that's going to be built over here. There is one major thing though that's getting lost from this that I'm a little bummed about. Could this entire project have been rushed to give 23 a much needed boost? It wouldn't be the first time Disney announced something prematurely to make a splash at a major event. And let's not forget that the major e-ticket roller coaster that will soon be on the pathway directly behind me, this has been a plan that Disney has been kicking around for quite some time, going back even a decade. At one point, rumored to go in the Hollywood backlot at Disney California Adventure. And now suddenly, it's back on the table. Does that sound like a well-orchestrated plan to you? Or a last-minute effort to fill in a presentation and just go, what can we make as fast as possible without investing a ton of time into research and development? What do we have that we can announce now? And this kind of brings up my concern here. Is this the kind of reactive planning that Disney needs to take on Universal's Epic Universe? Where Universal, as we all know, is gearing up to open an entirely new park this year. And every detail seems meticulously planned out. But meanwhile, Disney seems to be repurposing old ideas, cobbling together a vision for one select area of Disney's Hollywood studios. Kind of makes it feel like it's a short-term play for a long-term problem, and very risky when the stakes are this high. Now, because I'm admittedly a theme park weirdo, this back little alley here is my favorite part in all of Hollywood studios. I love the Manhattan feel that it has. I love how removed it is. It's always kind of quiet, but I feel like this tight corridor creates a true story of being inside of a Muppets Manhattan type setting. Gonna be sad to see this go away, but it is being replaced with a park, and I always love how Disney designs their parks and green spaces into a very, very busy theme park, making it feel more like a city and less like an amusement park. It's that theme part that's so important to your theme park. Now, if you're really paying attention, you'll see another one of these style of awnings will pop up over in the new green space. This is really cool to repeat this because it not only sets a design choice for this land, creating a style guide, tying the two pieces together will absolutely make it feel like there's a unique infrastructure for this world that we're exploring. That is one of the most subtle details in here that made me really excited to see them building from the story within, but just adding a little bit more to it. The previous concepts hinted at expansive areas, some even outside the bounds of Muppets Land, but this new artwork feels more constrained, focusing entirely on the Muppets Land footprint. If the earlier concepts were to set a vibe, this one feels way more practical and planned out. Like they're finally working within tighter limitations. They're finally making something that is realistic. But does that reflect a plan, or are we seeing compromise? So it also does appear that engine company number 1 will remain, although there's a little something weird happening with this water tower being moved over here. So this corner is to be determined. And the Christmas shop is gonna stay, although the building's staying. It looks like new signs, the water tower is being removed. It's gonna have a way more residential feeling. And you notice in this particular corner of the park and wherever they're putting in the residential spaces, they're focusing on their core branding colors. purple and green kind of everywhere to reinforce that Monsters Inc. brand. Kind of generic when you think about what the two main characters' colors are. It's not that deep of a color palette, but you will see that get used time and time again to just solidify that you're inside of that world, as well as all the little Gothic flourishes that you'll see on the buildings, kind of more spikes and teeth, things that we'll find in our real world architecture, but feels a little bit more special here because it plays into the idea of monsters, where these flourishes can look like teeth, horns, spikes, tentacles. Like, it just adds a whole other level of storytelling, and it's not that complex, but it is consistent. And I think that's what will make this land feel immersive. Now, as Disney fans, you can just be excited or not excited. That's up to you. But as somebody who studies this on the channel, this is where I have to ask some hard questions. Is this new direction an improvement? Or does it feel like a step back? Not a step back against Muppets Land, but just a step back at where the industry is going. Like, is this cutting edge something that has multi-decade life? Or is this something that'll be cool for a couple of summers and then everybody will be like, what else do you got? I'm sure many fans are very excited about a Monsters Inc. land, but I just wonder, is it being designed for the longevity that a park needs? Because we know they don't make a lot of these revisions too often. Shout out to Tomorrowland back home at Disneyland. But as a creative that, studies the heart, art, design of the Disney parks, my biggest worry here is this showing Disney's focus on quick wins and hurting their overall ability to think long-term. That's my concern, always, long-term planning. Now, what's really interesting, the Mama Melrose facade, it stays. If we look at the concept artwork, this perfectly aligns with the back corner. So this facade is staying. But then Harryhausen's is going to begin on the other side of this. And I think that's where this land's going to actually have to expand a little bit. Let's break this part down. I feel like everything from the awning over, this whole cube on the end, this will have to get torn down and become Harry's. If we line Mama Melrose up with the concept artwork, you can clearly see that's where that building sticks out. And then there is extra space over here on the corner to not take away from the wide walkway that they obviously want for the new roller coaster attraction. So for fully to believe the concept artwork, this space that I'm standing in, all the way up to the edge of the curb, this will be converted over into Harry's to make that cool looking new building with the giant chopsticks. So that's going away, but the Mama Melrose's facade appears to be staying. So the roller coaster should be pretty big. It will be directly down this path. And keep in mind, when we look at the concept artwork, the actual ride exists in the M-shaped hangar. So all that other space around there could be an indication of an expansive pre-show, maybe a little bit of shopping or some other experience, but the roller coaster itself should go into the factory. And just a little critique, Disney, why are you showing backstage? I'm gonna airbrush some trees in here. It only took a couple of seconds. Like, we're not supposed to see what lies behind Rise of the Resistance. Like, come on, what is this? It was jarring to see backstage. Like, just put in the trees. We know it's there, but we don't want to see that it's there when we're looking at concept artwork. Because concept artwork is meant to be a tease for our imaginations. This breaks the wall of imagination and brings in the nastiness of reality. Monsters Inc. has the potential to be a very, very successful land. But its rocky, uncertain start does raise a couple questions about how Disney is approaching park design in 2025. This is becoming an incredibly competitive landscape. And even though I think this is going to be awesome, I just wonder, is it enough? Or is it a little, too late for plans that have been sitting around for over a decade? And it just so happens to be the most controversial part of this entire puzzle. It's going to be the part where it looks like they're putting in the most amount of work. When we look at the building that's behind me, the home to Muppet Vision 3D, they are putting a ton of new facade work into this one. By far, the massive transformation here is the biggest thing that we're seeing in this land, other than the building over here going away. This thoroughfare will be unrecognizable with the park, a building missing, and what's happening to my right. When we look at the intricate marquee out front, you can see tentacles, spikes, a centralized eye, It's way bigger than the Muppets' current marquee that we see in front of the theater. The clock tower also gets an eye added to the clock. You see lots of Gothic accents all around roof lines and the steelwork on the edges to just make it feel a little more industrial. A new billboard is added to the corner, but this is where I think it gets the most exciting. And I can't show you this in the real world, but you'll be able to see it when we come in here. The rounded roof of the theater will be hidden by 7 new faux building facades, making this feel a lot more like a little neighborhood right across from Grand Avenue. Not only will this create more neighborhood feelings, but it will create a lot more storytelling. Your imagination will tell you, wow, there's monsters that live all around this little city that I'm lucky enough to explore for the afternoon. Now, I'll be curious, there's a red awning over here on the corner. Will that be maybe a sweet shop or something? Are they gonna build something into this space, or are they just gonna retrofit the exterior and use the interior the way that it is now? But probably one of the biggest bum outs is Miss Piggy's fountain going away. This new modern art eyeball piece, I just don't really know if it's for me. It feels a little bit lazy, but who knows? Maybe that's just placeholder artwork. The land, both inside and outside, will have several vehicles parked around for photo ops, a place to sit. I'm assuming this will create a vibe very similar to the vehicles we see stationed all around Toontown back home at Disneyland. Oh, I love Disneyland. Now, the previous concept artwork does not align with this vision. Although they may have established the proper mood, there's no way to align any of that to what we're inside of today. I do think a lot of the facade work that they're doing to the Muppets Theater will create a lot more storytelling and a lot less industrial backstage area feeling. When you're walking to the e-ticket attraction, you'll see the park, you'll see a city. I think you will see yourself inside of a true Monsters Land. Although not quite as crazy as Zootopia that we saw internationally, but you know, that was a long shot to get something of that great detail. Now that I'm thinking about it, if everything over here is a park, you have to do something to this massive, ugly theater building, right? Like, the arms kind of twisted to turn this into a neighborhood vibe so that when you walk through here, with the culmination of the park and the city, you actually feel like you're going someplace versus just walking through, I don't know, a backlot studio, which I mean, I guess is kind of cool to people that don't live in LA and have never been to a studio. But to me, this stretch right here has always lacked the imagination that the other stretch on the other side has, because that stretch is phenomenal. How about you do both of us a favor by becoming a friend of Hey Brickey and subscribing to the channel today. And if you want to kick our relationship up a notch, consider becoming a Magic Brickey holder. I'm so excited you're here. And honestly, I'm super excited that I'm here. A week of Walt Disney World. First trip, 2025. Let's hope to keep going.